Hey guys, you remember that video from last year, the Uldarash Civil War? Yeah, that got really good feedback and support. However, the only issue was that the audio was a bit shit. So in response to that, I decided to redo the entire audio and like music track for that video, and to make it sound a bit better. I hope you enjoy. I want you to take a look at this map. Now, what does it remind you of? Africa, South America, or the Balkans? You have 5 seconds, go. If you choose the Balkans, then you're correct. Good job. Now, if I told you these collection of nations used to be part of a massive empire, I know, hard to believe that this used to be once a massive empire, but it's all true. This empire was called Uldarash, and during its peak was regarded as the most powerful states in all of Ratnir. This is the history of the Uldarash Civil War. Summer 2021, Atas leads a group of his companions to the end to fight the gods of Chaos Entropy. Now, who is this Entropy felt, you ask? Well, not much is known about her. However, she has been responsible for most of the major events in Ratnir. You know the moon that exploded? Yeah, that was her. The Carpicious raids? Her as well. Oh, we can't forget about the Coalition War. Essentially, fucking World War One. That was her. Think of every human catastrophe and just blame it on her. Simple as that. I'm telling you, no one can catch a break from her. It's impossible. After a long battle, Entropy was defeated, but in her final act of defiance, placed a curse on Tikil Knight, rendering him ill and unfit to rule the Empire. So an election was held, in which candidates from different states were chosen to become the next empire. A quick side note, Uldarash had two empires, making it sort of a dual monarchy. One is hereditary, while the other was elected by the people. Now, if one of the emperors was incapacitated, then he would be replaced by either through blood or by election. Now, after much deliberation and back and forth, promises I doubt they'll keep, typical politicians, Quasar won the vote. Coincidentally, at the same time, K914 decided to step down and was replaced by Nicephorus. Celebrations occurred on this glorious day of the coronation of Nicephorus and Quasar, and immediately Quasar would get to work, improving the rights and privileges of ordinary citizens by passing several reforms. One of these reforms was the creation of a lower chamber for the Uldarashi Congress, which served as a counterbalance to the High Council, a bunch of non-elected government officials. Mainly, Pro-Quasar and the citizenry supported these reforms, but the old guard that consisted of prominent and experienced members didn't like this approach. They believed it would lead to a substantial decline of Uldarash. These tensions would boil up further following the Candy conspiracy. Players Mining Boy 12 and Jack F. Candy were accused of secession. Jack would be banned from Uldarash before his trial, but Mining Boy would still be charged for his crimes and exiled, sparking protests as Mordrogans believed their elected official had been unjustly removed based on false pretexts. Things would really start to escalate following a series of messages began to spread announcing the disposition of Quasar. On November 2nd, 2021, Quasar would publish an ultimatum giving the state 24 hours to have a trial and reinstate her as empress. The declaration proclaimed the forced abdication of Nicephorus and nations to recognize her as the sole legitimate ruler of Uldarash. When her demands went unanswered, the states of Montroik and Elfhelm pledged their support for Quasar, while Sanctuary, Alucard, and Chevcree denounced the declaration, and Severina just remained neutral in the conflict, hoping for a peaceful resolution. But peace was a distant memory, as the battle lines were already drawn. A trial was held for Quasar, as she was accused for election fraud. However, prosecutor couldn't provide any evidence to back up this claim, so Quasar was declared innocent. This wouldn't really stop the domino effect from continuing on, as Elfhelm and Montroik would declare their full allegiance to Quasar, and about a week later, the first shots of a civil war would begin. Imperial forces would assault the island of K9, kicking the Lois off and back to the mainland. Even though it was a small skirmish and didn't really see any significance, it was a victory regardless and a small morale boost. Foreign powers would immediately take interest in the conflict by sending weaponry and material as they hoped to tip the tide of the war in their favor. In latent terms, it was becoming a proxy war. Imperial forces would take initiative by launching their offensive into Montrug with the goal of taking their capital, Toroja, hopefully ending the war in one decisive battle. Expecting this, Loyalist forces made preparations to defend the capital. As Imperial forces made preparations to take it, both sides would prepare for a long and grueling siege. Imperial forces would launch their offensive by attacking from multiple directions to achieve a breakthrough. While this was ongoing, the Loyalists would send a contingent to attack the city of Northport in an effort to divert resources away from the siege. In response, an Imperial contingent was sent to deal with these saboteurs. Eventually, a breakthrough would occur as Imperial forces would push the Loyalists down from their positions and into the marketplace. Skirmishes would occur as the Loyalists would do everything in their power to make sure the situation was contained and prevent further breakthrough. Imperials would then charge down into the marketplace and slaughter defenders. Their strength quickly overwhelmed the defenders as they were forced to scatter in a desperate attempt to flee the city. Quasar among them was injured, having to be evacuated through a hidden passageway out of the city. The city was soon looted and ransacked. Anyone unfortunate enough to remain was quickly slaughtered. By the end of the day, Toroja was under Imperial control. Quasar would flee to Trebonstead. Upon her arrival, she was given an update on the current Loyalist position, and it was not looking good. Their economy was declining, personnel deserting, and their allies were reconsidering their support for the cause. Something needed to change. So Quasar and her war council devised a plan known as Operation Clapback Sandtrap, an all-out offensive to retake occupied territories and cities of strategic importance, Coolio City and Hepatimas being the most important cities to take. If the operation was successful, it would be a major turning point for the Loyalist cause. If they failed, death is what will await them. On November 21st, 2021, at 2 p.m. Eastern, the offensive would begin. Loyalists on the Eastern Front would make rapid advances as the state of Cherokee was densely populated and there were little to no Imperial settlements or fortifications in the area. The Western Front was the same story, with Loyalists retaking Teotihuacan, which would provide them with a base of logistics and operations for this front. Despite an initial success, they underestimated their capabilities as the logistical lines have become stretched and as communication from officers played a key role in the campaign's failure. Hepatimas, the imperial capital, was a primary target and responsibility for its capture went to the Agent Aimbot. He ordered a frontal assault on the walls to create pressure and break through. Some Imperials then sallied out to confront the Loyalists onto the field of battle, invigorating those on the wall to do the same. When the Loyalists started to lose ground in the middle of battle, communication at this very instant broke down as Bardorian soldier acted on his own volition, sounded the retreat. Some units began to fall back, while others continued to fight, as with Aimbot doing everything in his power to regain control. Imperials saw an opportunity and striked, chasing the retreating Loyalists back to Teotihuacan until having to retreat themselves to ensure the safety of the capital. On the Eastern Front, the battle for Coolio City wasn't faring any better. Loyalists had positioned themselves on higher terrain and started firing arrows to dislodge the advancing Imperials. Both sides soon charged. Despite Imperials being outnumbered 2-1, they had put up staunch resistance. During the battle, Nicophorus and Quasar would engage each other in a one-on-one duel, with both sides spectating. Quasar had gained the upper hand and was about to deal the killing blow. Nicophorus soon regained her footing, blocking it with her sword, kicking Quasar to the ground and stabbing her in the arm, pinning her down. Seeing this, Loyalist forces would retreat from Coolio and be further pushed out of occupied Cherokee, eliminating any progress made. Upon hearing news of Quasar's capture and a counteroffensive failure, Loyalist support would quickly diminish as governments began to pull out. The Loyalists were alone, and May knew it was only a matter of time before the Imperials arrived at their doorstep. That was until news arrived from the most unexpected place. The Ultima Entente had joined the war. Now, the Ultima Entente was a multinational military alliance of great powers of Eldham at the time. It encompassed major players such as Yuraki Imperium and Zamatsu, all of them working together to achieve shared interests and goals. Initially, the Entente had maintained a neutral stance, but that changed when an unarmed citizen had stolen 7 million worth of items from them. The Entente demanded compensation of 10 million. The Roman government, however, refused, so the Entente entered the war on the side of the Loyalists. The Entente would set forth to Ardet for preparation and resupply before setting forth once again to Fort Nas along with foreign volunteers and Loyalists. The Entente had arrived and were instantly met with volleys of arrow fire, but that didn't dissuade them from blowing a hole in the wall and storming in. Fighting was vicious. This was the Orange home, their city, and that urban warfare is a nightmare for every commander. The Entente had managed to push all the way to the chapel, but suffered heavy losses doing so. The Imperials, having reorganized from the initial assault, then countered, pushing them all the way back to the breach or fighting with the Sioux from there. The Entente would soon retreat, and the Imperials returned back to the safety of their walls, needing to prepare for any attacks. The Battle of Fort Nost was one of the bloodiest engagements of the war, with both sides claiming victory. It's considered a stalemate, as neither side could finish each other off. The Loyalists were now invigorated, as they saw victory was now possible with the aid of the Entente. Despite the Entente's pledge to support their Loyalists, they would assess the situation carefully and come to the conclusion that a long and protracted war wasn't worth it. Entering negotiations with the imperial government and signing the Treaty of Akenza, Imperials agreed to pay 22 million, a trial for the criminals, and independence for Severina and Nullera. Though both countries were independent, it was temporary. Severina would rejoin Uldarash, with Nullera joining the Loyalist cause, but later withdrew and became a protectorate under the Entente. Throughout the winter season, fighting would largely cease on all fronts. The Loyalists, demoralized, undersupplied, and defeated, would enter negotiations with the Imperials. After a long deliberation, they would sign the Treaty of Taroja on January 2nd, 2022, officially ending all hostilities. The states of Montroig and Elflum were integrated into the empire, but under a military administration. Quasar was forced to renounce her claim to the throne. Loyalists were given amnesty as the new Empress, Scotch Knight, which had replaced Quasar during the war, wished to see Haven reunited and demonstrate compassion to their former enemy, though some would flee to Eldham, still believing in the cause, creating a nation distinct from their homeland, known as the Republic of Refuge. Uldarash, though broken, had survived, with rebuilding and reconciliation being the primary task in order to return some semblance of stability before the war. However, a series of unfortunate crises and divisions would jeopardize that process, and on March 22, 2022, Uldarash would collapse, with various successor states claiming the mantle of Uldarash, each fighting control over a dead empire, before fading into the bounds of history and being subjugated under the Ashadi Commonwealth, which would rule over the Haven continent for the duration of Ragnar's history.